Summer is in full swing, and with your classic Mustang on the road, you want to make sure it looks great, drives right, and feels perfect. National Parts Depot is the largest restoration parts supplier in the industry. And while NPD started out as strictly mail order, they have not lost their roots over the years. To this day, they offer premium, high-quality products for your classic ride. NPD's goal is to restore American history by bringing your dream to life. NPD is well aware of what it takes to build not just a show winner, but a vehicle that functions properly and provides years of enjoyment. Don't believe the urban myth that all restoration parts suppliers carry the same parts and that price alone is the only thing that separates one supplier from another. That could not be further from the truth. NPD remains 100% family-owned and will continue to strive to offer the finest parts and accessories available for your classic. With 4 jam-packed warehouses to serve you in Florida, North Carolina, Michigan, and California, NPD gets you the parts you need and gets into you fast. To get a free catalog or order parts today, just go to npdlink.com. That's npdlink.com. Coming up today on this episode of Ford Mustang, the Early Years Podcast.
The first videos were of that Fusion. My brother bought it, and he's not a car guy. He's an accountant. So I said, let me have your car for about a month and I'll get everything fixed on it and done and running. And we just started filming those fixes. And like I said before, our biggest long form video is the antenna. And the second biggest one, I believe, is replacing the gear shift knob on that same car.
Welcome to the Ford Mustang First Generation, the Early Years Podcast. Every week we will have conversations with collectors, experts, weekend warriors, and those in the know when it comes to first generation ponies. Start your engines and let's go.
All right, Ford Mustang community, welcome back to the podcast. So my name is Doug Sandler. Of course, I've been bringing you these episodes for the last several years. Very much appreciate you tuning in. Very much appreciate National Parts Depot for doing their job. You just heard a commercial from them. And today, it's going to be kind of cool because we're going to be talking to a YouTuber, a guy that has actually brought to YouTube Lite. I don't how many videos do you have, Jay? Like 1,400 it looked like on the YouTube channel. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
1,400 videos somewhere in there, and almost 1.4 million views. It's definitely strikes the right chord with those that are checking out his videos. So when Jay Hillison brings the classics out to the street, he does it right. Checking out his YouTube channel, it is called Fresh Vintage. You can easily see the enthusiasm for everything classic, including his old pony. I think it's a 1965 GT Mustang. Is that right?
Yes, sir. It's a factory GT.
Nice factory GT, which he has owned since 1991. I'm excited to chat with him, YouTuber and everything classic phenom. Welcome, Jay, to Ford Mustang, the Early Years Podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Hey, I'm happy to have you here. And I know that we met either through Instagram or through Facebook. I cannot remember, but started checking out your YouTube channel. You got a lot of cool stuff. What was the motivation behind and the inspiration behind starting the YouTube channel to begin with?
That I'll give credit to my colleague and friend Tom. He locked in the channel name about 6-7 years ago, but never really did anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of just got to a point in our lives that we were like, we want something different. And the first video he did was a review on a Segway scooter. And it kind of piqued my interest, and we talked about it a lot. We're both into cars. We're gearheads, classic cars, Mustangs, etc. And it's just kind of evolved. Technically, we've been doing it just over a year.
So tell me what makes something fresh, vintage, viewable. So what sparks your curiosity enough to know? Because I'm looking at your channel, you have a lot of things on there. You have everything from Camaros to classic Mustangs, classic Corvettes. You even have products and services that are reviewed on there too. But what would entitle something to be labeled as fresh, vintage?
Off the top of my head, say you see a 1987 Mustang GT at a car show and it looks like it came out of a time capsule. It's keeping the classics alive, keeping people interested in them. And like the V8s, it's going to be a dying breed here soon.
What do you think makes a winning video? I look at some of your videos. Some of them have 3,000, 4,000 views, and then some of them have 100 views. Have you figured out the formula for what makes a video that will get the thousands instead of the hundreds of views? Or are you still working on that a year later?
Well, that's where we're still digging into it. We're getting kind of zeroing in on it, but I mean, and this is kind of funny, but replacing an antenna on a Ford Fusion has close to 10,000 views. How does that happen? I don't know. Why?
Well, it might be a common problem people are having on those Ford Fusions. Maybe, I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, me personally, I'd rather watch a 65 Mustang go down the road than.
I love it. So what got you into the world of classic Mustangs, and how did you acquire your 65 GT?
So I grew up in Blacksburg, Virginia, and that's a college town. That's where Virginia Tech is. My dad was a professor there, department head. He worked for Virginia Tech for 30 years. And during the late 80s, early 90s, college students would have your normal 6-cylinder coupe. That was kind of the end thing to do back in that time, have like a Camaro or a Mustang or whatever. And my dad's a Ford guy. I kind of just, I like Fords. So it kind of all came together when I turned 18. I had some money together and decided I'm going to get a Mustang, but not just any Mustang. I need something. I was originally looking at maybe like a fastback or something different from your standard 6-cylinder automatic coupe. Nothing wrong with those. I just wanted something different.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day, you didn't have the internet. You had a newspaper, and I'd check that thing every day. With my mom's help, we would drive places and look at cars, and like I remember even driving past Roanoke. And if you don't know, that's about an hour away, maybe a little bit further to look at a car.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give a shout out to TJ's Mustang, because that's who I brought one car for him to look at. Because I was a kid, I didn't know anything about cars, and he basically said, get something different, because this one is in bad shape.
Is that the one that you end up passing on, or is that the one you end up buying?
I passed on that. That was a fastback, and if I remember correctly, the transmission, it was a manual. The transmission, something was wrong with the transmission because I had trouble shifting it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, all right, let's start over. And I'd look at Auto Traders too. That's how I saw that one car. And then I saw another one, and he met us halfway, and you lift the carpet up, you can see the road, and it's like, man, I don't know.
I'm hoping. Did you pass on that one too, or is that
I passed on that one?
Okay.
And luckily, I was patient. I I wasn't in any hurry. I had, I had still living at home. I was in high school, so I had access to cars, and luckily I waited. And then in the Roanoke Times, there was a ad for a '65 GT Mustang coupe. And, of course, I've heard of a Mustang GT, but I didn't know there was one in '65. I was like, really? So, the little booklet you could buy to decode a Mustang at the time.
Of course.
You don't have the internet to spit out numbers. And I looked it up, and if I'm not mistaken, in '65, they made 12,000, 13,000 coupes, convertibles, and fastback GTs.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only imagine how many are left right now.
Right.
And I kind of wanted a 4-speed. This was a 4-speed, and it was in West Virginia, just over the border, about an hour away. And so we went and looked at it, and this car came from, it was born and lived in California for most of its life. And the owner that I bought it from, he stored it under fairground bleachers every winter. And that's why to this day there's zero rust on it.
That's incredible. What a neat looking piece of, a neat piece of Americana. You have the iconic Mustang with the GT. So that's the one that's got some major horsepower under the hood.
Well, it's more cosmetic because it's an A code. It's your standard 289 4-barrel.
Mm-hmm.
The main difference is you got the front fog lights, the stripes on the bottom, the GT emblems, the rear valance with the exhaust coming out. And that's the main differences. Off the top of my head, I might be missing something. Front disc brakes, that's a big one.
Yeah, huge.
And they came in the A and the K code. Of course, the K code is the hypo. So, but mine's a code 4-barrel. So it's.
Do you know if it has the original paint job on it, or did you wait?
No,
you said you painted it, right?
Correct. When I bought it, it was blue. And after I bought it, a couple years later, I was pulled out from a stop sign at a busy intersection, and somebody hit my right front fender. And I decided to get it back to the original honey gold color. And that's the one and only year they had that color. Honey gold is '65.
So has this been the only Mustang in your past, or have you owned others before then or since then?
No, this is the only one I've kept. Since it's more of a weekend driver for, let's see, in college, I had an '89 Mustang, and then I got a '95, and I sold my '02 last year.
All right, so you held on to the good one, though, the '65.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And when I first bought the car, not everybody, but a lot of people would say, "Oh, I used to have one. I wish I would have kept it." And that just kind of put a bug in my brain. It's like, I'm just going to hang on to this. And here I am.
That's great. What a great story too. And it sounds like that has led into your love of all things classic. So when your buddy and you decided that this was the direction that you were going to go with the YouTube channel, did it start to bring up all sorts of feelings and inspirations from the days of the '65 GT?
Yeah, of course. It's and a small good story. I kind of stopped showing it. I mean, I still kept up with it and make sure it was running and driving, and I'd drive it at least once a month. And I just kind of stopped showing it. Just, I kind of got tired of it. And, you spend a whole weekend cleaning and sitting at a car show and all that. And then now we hit up all the cars and coffees and the car shows. And I don't bring it to all the events, but I'll bring it to a few.
Right, right. So you're so tell me a little bit more about how the YouTube channel and all of the ideas for the stories that you have in there kind of evolved. Now I know your buddy started the channel, but it sounds like you've probably had some contributions to it as well in terms of content.
Yeah, we kind of, I'm trying to think. I know it's only been a year, but it's been such a blur that we kind of just delved into the car world. That's kind of how we met originally. We worked together, and we kind of, became friends because of love of cars and etc. And we just looking at other YouTube channels that are similar to ours, like, they have a bunch of shorts, like a nice car, you show the engine and you show it, little teasers. And I think the first videos were of that Fusion. My brother bought it, and he's not a car guy. He's an accountant. So I said, let me have your car for about a month, and I'll get everything fixed on it and done and running. And we just started filming those fixes. And like I said before, our biggest long form video is the antenna. And the second biggest one, I believe, is replacing the gear shift knob on that same car.
Well, maybe people are just doing YouTube search of Ford Fusion and they're coming up with your video, and everybody's getting
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it kind of, that's where we started, and then we started going. There's a bunch of, I live in Roanoke, Virginia, so there's quite a few car shows in the area, like most places, and we kind of do different things now. We, like, Tom will do a live, like, from the event, hey, we're here live, and we're going to walk through and do about a half hour walking through looking at cars. And
right.
It's getting some traction, and I'm going to, we started doing what we call rolling videos, where you talk to the owner of a nice car, and we kind of drive beside them, get some rolling shots. I've got a drone, so we fly above them, get videos.
I did see you do a sky shot using your drone for your 65 GT. It is pretty sweet. It's one of the videos that is there. I'll make sure I put a link in the show notes so that you have access for all of our Ford Mustang community to the Fresh Vintage YouTube channel as well. What do you think that sets your channel apart from all of the others that are out there? I agree. I can't put my finger quite on what makes it unique, but you do have some unique videos. What is it that you set apart? Would you say that you set yourself apart from the others?
We try to. That's a hard question because we're still trying to find our niche, to be honest.
Right. But
we've been in the car community forever, and we kind of know what people like, what gets people to tune in.
Well, we do know for sure that changing antenna and gear shift knobs on the Ford Fusion are key elements to making it success. But those aren't every video. I promise you that for our community members. There's plenty of other classic car videos in there too, and a bunch on the Mustangs.
Yeah, exactly. And I do. This one came to mind because we recently did this one. We met somebody who put a patent tank engine in a quote hot rod.
Okay.
And this engine came from Jay Leno himself. and this guy built off a Freightliner chassis, built a thrown together, we call it the tank rod, with a patent gas tank engine.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's it's a fairly large engine in a fairly small vehicle. So that'll be pretty cool. Is that one's already come out, or is that soon to come out?
Yeah, that one's out in about a month.
Nice.
So.
Nice. Again, I'll put a link in the show notes so that you have access to Jay's series of videos. Talk to me about the community for a second. You mentioned that you do go to a number of events. You also, I saw somewhere that maybe it was on your YouTube channel that you had you had attended at SEMA.
Yes.
Is that right, or is that
yes.
coming?
Yes. I went to SEMA last year. I was able to go last year because I'm in the industry for work. So if you've never been to SEMA or ever researched it, it's very strict on who can come. And luckily, I was able to sneak in through my job to get a pass.
Right.
That's why. And Tom had to stay at home, so I was uploading all these tons of videos through the Google Drive, and he was at home literally editing and throwing videos up as quick as he could that week. So.
That's great. That's great. What any classic Mustang highlights from SEMA? I know a bunch of our buddies were there, including Aaron and Joey Duncan from Duncan Brothers. I don't know if you know those guys, but have you seen any of the classic Mustangs over at SEMA?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know like, unfortunately, before his passing, Hoonigan has one, and they were doing burnouts in one. And there's quite a few in booths that the people that have a booth there, they reach out to people with Mustangs. I think this is a stretch. I think there was somebody that turned one into an EV, and they were at the EV area last year.
I'd be interested in seeing a 65 or a 66 first gen Mustang turned into an electric vehicle. That'd be kind of cool.
I'm about 90% sure there was one. If you haven't been, the SEMA is absolutely monstrous how big it is.
Yeah, massive show. What other events do you get a chance to participate in, or what do you have coming up on your schedule to get to?
So some exciting things this year. We went to Hot Rod Power Tour, came through Bristol, Tennessee, at the Bristol Dragway. So we were only able to spend a day, so we went to Bristol. It's probably about 2.5 hours from here, so it's not bad. That was amazing. I mean, when we got there was a line of cars coming in, and that line stayed steady for at least 5 or 6 hours.
Wow.
It was that many cars coming in. We got tons of footage there, tons of old cars, classics, Mustangs, and some new cars, and everything in between. I just hope next year they kind of stay to the East Coast some so we can do it again, but I'm guessing it'll probably be like Midwest or something. There's an event called, we're near Virginia International Raceway, VIR, and there's a event called Hyperfest. It's a little hard to describe. Think of Von Gittin drift cars. They had NASA racing cars there, burnouts, everything. It's great to see because that brings the younger crowd, the 18 to 35, whatever.
Yep.
And it's great to see that many people interested because, like I mentioned before, I'm leery that eventually, people won't be interested in old cars anymore.
You know, it's interesting. I'm looking at the hyperfest.com website. I'll put a link in the show notes for that. It's described as the destination for those who want to be immersed in one of the premier automotive lifestyle events with activities taking place on asphalt, dirt, mud, grass, and even in the air. We've got you covered. So it's motorsports, camping, and music. It sounds like it's a pretty good, well-rounded event.
Yeah, it's a 3-day event. And I think it brings about 15,000 people.
Wow, that's incredible.
15 to 20, I think. And you know, for example, the RTR guys were there. Vaughn Gittin was driving he did a full VIR has a 4-mile track. So he did a full track drift. So it's quite impressive. And we started looking at what VIR has because they're so close to us, and we've been lucky that they've been giving us media passes. So we went to something called Fanatec GT last month, and think of race cars like the top end, like Aston Martins, and you got your Corvettes, and you got Vipers, and these people just go out and race them, and it's a few steps below NASCAR, but I mean, these people have a lot of money sunk into these cars.
It sounds like you're pretty immersed in the car culture, and you really love doing what you do. I'm curious, what gives you what's your full-time occupation that gives you the opportunity to get away to go to so many of these fun events? What do you do full-time?
Well, I work for, I won't give you the name, but I work for an automotive parts retailer, and I'm currently an inventory analyst. And I've been with this company for 19 years.
Wow. So, okay. So you're ingrained in it's in your blood. The car community is in your blood, it sounds like.
Yep. And after high school, I went to Virginia Tech for a little bit. I thought I'd be an automotive engineer, but it just wasn't. It's too black and white for me. So I ended up going.
You need some right brain stuff going on there. It sounds like you got some creative in you as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I went to Indiana State, and they have a bachelor's in automotive engineering technology. So that I tell people that's a cross between a mechanic and a engineer. And that's kind of where I fit in. You know, I don't want to be a mechanic. It's just too hard on your body. And engineering interests me, but it's too black and white. I like to tinker. I like to fix stuff. That kind of brings us. I'll touch briefly, but we do also test CAN tools, and that helps us to get in with those companies. They send us products, and we do our reviews on them. So
well, Jay, I so appreciate you bringing your message and the things that you deliver to not only our Mustang community, but to the car community as well. Thank you for sharing, and thanks for being on our show today.
Thank you so much.
For those in our community, all of the information that we shared today, including access to Jay's YouTube channel and to Hyperfest, will be right there in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, please keep it safe, keep it rolling, and keep it on the road. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Ford Mustang First Generation, the Early Years podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Ideas for the show? Click the link in the show notes. Thanks again for tuning in.